Yeah, it's kind of a creepy place, because there's no black at all.
A lot of experiments out there.
Plutonium, nuclear weapon. Nuclear destruction. They're just balls of light.
There's a ghost in the house.
What's up, everybody? Broadcasting live from the mystical Sonoma Mountains here in the Napa Valley wine country. This is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Steve Cruz. Got a special show tonight with the NightStocker, and at the very last minute, Gigi is with us from Shift Happens. Right? We are broadcasting in YouTube. Broadcasting in the Discord chat. So if y'all are at the YouTube and you want to hang out in the Discord chat and listen to it, just mute your mic. Thank you, Mike J. Mike J is in there. He's listening on the Discord chat. And yeah, you just mute your mic and it's all good. Got the show going on in there for you. I sound garbled, Dave. Huh, that's weird. Sure why I'm sounding garbled, but okay. Sounds like you're underwater. I don't know what that's all about, but okay. Well, then I guess just go over to YouTube. Not sure why I sound garbled, but
what about me and Gigi? How do you sound?
guys,
Well, there is in Discord. If you just go into the audio preferences and just hit reset settings, that fixes that problem. That's just a thing on Discord.
all right. So reset settings. Where is that reset settings at?
All the way at the bottom.
All the way at the bottom.
It's the last day of our retrograde, I think. Right? Or it's getting that?
Pretty close, right? Yeah.
So,
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been a technologically disastrous weekend for me and a friend of mine, to say the least.
Yeah, I was just telling everyone, or excuse me, I was just telling NightStocker that I just got done redoing my computer. Jen, you want to mute your mic, and CZG, you mute your mic, please. I don't know. Do I still sound garbled? Do I still sound?
Let's see. Yeah,
sounds good to me.
I think you're good.
All right, but I don't know if anyone else can hear you guys. Jose says yes.
Oh.
What the freak? All right, just go to YouTube. I'm not dealing with this tonight. Sorry, guys. Sorry, no voice chat.
It's okay.
It's
So, still got the call-in number. It's easy.
yeah. But
Hello,
anyways,
everybody. What's going on, Lisa, Jen, Jose, Mike,
everyone's chilling.
Sis, Devin?
Oh, wait a minute now. Lisa says it sounds garbled on YouTube as well.
What?
Yeah.
What the freak?
Hold on, let me check this out. I'm going to go to YouTube.
I mean, I thought I sounded good, and you guys sound good. So
It's me, you
why
guys sound good.
Is it sounding like Shiat?
Oh, it does sound kind of garbled on YouTube.
All right, let's try this. Hang on a second. All right.
I don't know what to do here.
Okay. Well, this could be a voice meter thing, so it might sound better now. Hopefully, we'll see. I'm gonna go over to YouTube and see for myself. But yeah,
I think we're good.
We've been planning this for a while, NightStocker, and
Yeah, for real. Finally doing it.
Yeah, we're finally
right.
doing it.
Everything sounds good now.
Everything sounds good. Should we try the
Yeah.
YouTube or the Discord chat again?
Yeah, let's try that.
Does sound good. Sounds good on YouTube. Everyone that's listening and hanging out there in YouTube land. Gus.
Jeez,
I'm trying not to curse, but I know it's YouTube, so we could curse, but I don't. I still try not to curse because, you know, it just doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound professional over the radio. That's my that's my opinion.
No, right. The Discord people are
okay.
They're wondering why they can't hear it in the Discord. So go ahead and get back in there.
Yeah, working on it right about now. Let's see, cable. There's cable. All right.
Oh, I have the perfect song for these moments.
The world is a vampire.
Nice. I should have had that queued up. Jeez. Okay, well, here we go. Ready? And where's my voice? What happened to it?
There you go.
All right. Those who are in the Discord that are listening right now, can you hear us? And do we sound good?
Testing.
Yeah, this is definitely something we want to master. Being able to have
I can hear you
on hold in the Discord voice is a really cool thing that we figured out we can do. So
so cool, yeah.
Sounds good. Great.
All right. We're good to go.
And happy.
I feel
happy. So earlier we were just, for those of you who did not hear the conversation earlier, we're talking about the coronavirus again. And, you know, I'm so burned out on the coronavirus. I mean, I know it's important and shit, but
I hate it.
Yeah. I mean, it's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. Every talk show, every host. And I thought tonight would be a nice change up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. And, you know, I was just at several airports getting back in from Montana this last weekend.
Oh, yeah. How was that, man?
Oh, it was badass. Just a lot of snowboarding with my the old anti-ed crew, all my skater friends from Houston, and kind of like a reunion of sorts. But at the airports, you know, like probably 1 out of 300 people was wearing, you know, the little face mask, little surgical mask. And for some reason, like I can't even explain it. It just pissed me off. Like, come on, dude. Like, you're either going to get out or not. You think that little piece of paper on your mouth is going to stop anything? Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't blame them. You know, people are scared.
I was going to say that. You know, I don't blame them. You know,
it's tough. I mean, like we have every news source is telling us to be scared, and if we're not scared, they're telling us we're idiots for not being scared. But like as a supermarket employee, I know like right now there are no Lysol and Clorox wipes on the shelves in my store. Like at any of the stores in my area, completely wiped out. But then if you look at the tissues, they're jam packed, and like medicine is jam packed. So what that tells me is people are very scared, so they're buying up all the wipes, but they're not actually sick. So we're stocked up on tissues. So I think that's kind of a good sign for some people, is that like we're not actually sick yet. We're just worried about getting sick. So don't be afraid, people.
Right. Yeah, good way to look at it. Good way to look at it.
You know, this almost feels like deja vu.
Mm.
And it's weird because I could have swore at some point on the timeline we talked about this, all three of us doing a show like this. I'm not kidding. It just hit me like that feels weird. When you were talking, NightStocker, it hit me like this feels like deja vu. Like we already talked about this. This is so strange.
That's a good sign, I think. I mean, maybe we're doing something right.
Yeah, maybe.
The cool sync feeling. Yeah.
Get out of that time loop thing.
Yeah. We were just mentioning in the before the show started, but has everyone heard that Tom Hanks and his wife have just got tested positive for corona? That's the most recent corona news before we get going, which is pretty wild to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised it took so long for a celebrity to get it. In one sense, I guess. But you know, I feel like if anybody can afford that cure that's already out there that they're not telling us about, it would be Tom Hanks.
Yeah, definitely.
So I feel like he'll be all right.
If Magic Johnson can survive AIDS, Tom Hanks can survive this.
Not only did Magic Johnson survive AIDS, he actually owns the Fat Burger right there on Santa Monica.
Oh,
so make a props on that.
Major props. I still yet to go, and I haven't tried Fat Burger yet.
What the hell are you talking about, Dave? That's it.
Serious.
I'm flying out there tomorrow. And
no, man. I want to get that Reuben you've been talking about.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, we've got some food for you, Dave. You gotta catch up.
Well, you guys see my pictures. I'm down for food anytime. So,
man, do they not have Fat Burgers like up there?
Oh, they got one. It's kind of out of the way, but actually, it's not far from my job. And I've been off work because I fractured my foot. Get this, I actually have to go back to work tomorrow because my doctor gave me light duty, and I could have. I was like, well, I'm out the cleared because my job. There's really no light duty to do, right? So my supervisor and his smart thinking, oh, well, you can just like sit at the phones, you know, come in and take calls. And I'm like, oh, great, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
all right, so gotta
Should
get
have
up.
mentioned jaw pain or something.
I know, man.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, I can't even lift it. My hands hurt too. So, anyways, whatever. It pays the bills. What can I say? But speaking of paying the bills, Gigi, I have to let everybody know that brother Gigi here hooked the brother up, and tomorrow I'll be talking with Chris from Got Hemp, who will be one of our new sponsors for the show. And,
very cool.
Yeah, I'm very happy about that. And Chris seems like a great guy with a lot of knowledge. We're going to have him scheduled on the show one of these nights here in the near future. And we'll discuss all about Got Hemp and what it can do for you. And it's an amazing product. I have yet to try it, but I can tell you right now, Gigi is just raving about it. So especially the coffee, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, man. And yeah, it really is. You know, because these days everybody's sponsored by a CBD company, you know, or there are CBD companies at every conference. You know, everybody's got their own brand of it. And you know, because I first had Chris on an episode of Shift Happens before I even knew about Got Hemp, because he also has an e-juice company. So we were just talking about back that whole e-juice scare last year. So we had him on for an episode of that, and afterwards he just gave me some of his Got Hemp stuff. And I literally thought nothing of it. I was like, okay, I'll just throw this on the shelf with all the other ones. But he had that pre-rolled CBD joint. I was like, well, that's interesting. I've never tried that. And man, after I got done with that thing, I was like called Chris. I was like, man, what is this?
Mhm.
And then sure enough, with the oils and the coffee, you get that same boost, just like I did with that pre-rolled CBD stuff. And yeah, it's literally on another level. There's not many people out there that can afford the nanoparticulate process that they do. They also double test every single batch of their stuff to make sure it's exactly what it needs to be. They go through the FDA, even though that's not required. They take every extra step, and their CBD is loaded with all of the other stuff that matters. You can have as much CBD in there as you want, but if you don't have good levels of CBG, CBDA, the Delta 9 THC, there's a bunch of different carriers that actually deliver it into your body. And that's what, I mean, some of these other brands, they have hardly any of that stuff in there. So basically what ends up happening is you just pee out all the good stuff. And that's when you get people being like, yeah, I never noticed anything. It's like, okay, well, you didn't have a good product with all of the carriers boosted to high levels. And there's no other company that has those in higher levels than Got Hemp Extracts. And even if we weren't sponsored by them, I would still be telling you every word I just said. It's absolutely game-changing stuff. You guys definitely got to check it out.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I'm always down for new coffee, and why not CBD coffee? So there you go. And yeah, it's going to be great. I can't wait to talk to Chris and you and get this all set up. And there will be a discount promo code through Beyond the Strange, and just look for that on the website, and we'll talk about that more later in the coming shows. And yeah, so it's just really cool. I just wanted to throw it out there real quick because I'm really happy about it, and it's going to help us a lot with the show. Anyone who does a show, it's great to do these kind of shows and talk with people, but it is, we spend a lot of our time putting a lot of energy and money into these shows, and I don't blame anyone who says, hey, join our Patreon and a couple bucks a month or whatever, which Beyond the Strange has one also, but it really does help. And we're not looking to get rich. It's like there's like not even a handful of people who get rich off of these shows, but whatever we get, it does help go back and put back into the show. So thanks a lot, everyone. I just wanted to put that out there, and really appreciate it. So anyways, let's get on with the show, guys. Wanted to do this vampire show for a long time. I had a whole lot of ideas, and then I thought to myself, man, who's the guy that just loves to research things? and I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta talk to Stalker for sure, man. So I talked with NightStocker probably about a month ago, almost.
Yeah, more than that probably at this point. Yeah, 5 weeks ago probably.
Yeah, I mean we first talked about doing it a couple weeks, and then no, one more week, and then now one more week. So we're like,
it's just my my work schedule. I only have I work overnights, obviously, so I only have like 1 or 2 available nights. So it's tough trying to fit it with everyone else. So
yeah, I know,
it's
man.
more my fault than anyone.
No, it's all good. I mean, we really want to get you on a midnight blend one of these Saturday nights, but we know that you work, so
No, with the Discord thing with the voice chat is a game changer. Now I can just leave it on mute and just chime in when I got something when I'm working.
It's pretty sweet. It is pretty sweet. Yeah, for those of you who are in Discord, right now that I got it fixed. It sounds great, and all you got to do is mute your mic, and you can chat and listen to the show at the same time. So this is definitely going to be a thing for the show when we're not on the Fringe FM, because we want to be on the Fringe FM. That's where you want to listen to the show. Of course, if you're not in YouTube, go to the fringefm.fm, I should say. So this show again is about vampires, and first I kind of wanted, we were talking about Buffy, we were talking about all the Hollywood type movies and stuff like that, but there's actually a lot of history that goes into vampires, a lot of people believe that it's a mythology, that it's only in stories and lore and that kind of thing. But I was telling NightStocker, I did hear a story from one of my friends who's also a researcher in his own right, Rick Sennett, who told me about that there's these vampires in Las Vegas. But so I'm not really sure the origin where it starts. I mean, of course, the most common origin story is Vlad the Impaler.
I mean, it's pretty multifaceted. I mean, it's pretty deep. Like when you brought up the idea of doing a vampire show, my first like thing I said to you was like, I'm really into like researching and everything and all this stuff, but actually vampires, I'm not really sure if they exist like that. Like before, like now that I did all this research, I kind of have changed that opinion. But at the time, I was like, when I got into paranormal subjects, like I grew up on superheroes and on Buffy and stuff, so I kind of come at everything from like a real tangible like good guy versus bad guy thing. Like what can you go out there and actually like hunt or try to stop evil? And with like when you get into the paranormal, you can actually ghost hunt. Like everyone goes and tries to find ghosts. You can actually find real werewolves and stuff out there, like allegedly. But with vampires, I didn't think that there was really this evil vampire that you could actually go out and stake. I figured it was just a bunch of weird Gothic people who just drank each other's blood and then based around weird mythology. But there actually is some pretty crazy weird theories that this could be more real than I previously thought, you know. And you mentioned how we kept having to push it back, and synchronistically, we ended up putting it today as the 11th. And the first English language reference to vampires was on March 11th, 1732, from the London Journal. It's pretty weird. It's today. So the first time a vampire was ever mentioned in English was it's in a it's find the link. Basically, it's vampire with a Y, and in this case, people were getting their blood sucked out, and that's the earliest known English reference to it. So pretty synchronistic, I thought. It's today, and they just announced a Dracula reboot today too. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's nice.
It's pretty good that it got pushed back. Yeah.
Which reboot are they doing? Bram Stoker's or any particular
I think they haven't really given that many details, but the Invisible Man guy, he gave his take on what he would do like last week, and then today they just announced that they're going to do like a kind of like a modern day Invisible Man type thing. How like the Invisible Man that just came out was like a modern interpretation of the ancient universal monster. And
I heard that
this is going to be like a modern take on Dracula, I guess.
Yeah, I heard that movie really kicks ass too.
Yeah, me too. I didn't see it, but yeah.
No, I haven't seen it either. I plan on going to see it too. But yeah, I definitely got to check that out. But yeah, that's great. I'd like to see that guy's take on Dracula. But so one of the the first origins. I mean, put it this way. There's history in just about every culture about a vampire type creature, whether it's undead. There's even it's funny. I know I kind of go back and forth, and I just kind of stop in my tracks and go to something else. But because I just get sidetracked. I think I have ADD for real. But it's funny because have you guys seen that show on FX that came out a while back ago? I think it was a movie too, but it was called What We Do in the Shadows, and it was like a comedic.
I've heard of it. I didn't see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Monty Python take on vampires.
Yeah,
it's like an office. It's like The Office, like a documentary shot like that, but it's hilarious.
It's really good. I heard. Yeah, I heard it's great. Yeah.
What were you saying, Gigi? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I would have never remembered that if you didn't mention it. But yeah, I did see that. That was a little while. Yeah, that was fantastic.
It really is. It really, really is. If you guys ever get a chance, I think it's FX. But it's called What We Do in the Shadows, and there's a movie. There's an actual movie for it. What's his name? Taika
Taika
Taika.
Taika Waititi. Yeah,
That
he's
guy's
the Thor guy.
he's
Yeah.
blowing up, dude.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah.
And yeah, it's just amazing what he did with that with that movie, and then he did the TV show. But anyways, yeah, it's just a really good take on vampires, in a way. And it's pretty cool. The special effects in that show is actually really good. I mean, really good. I mean, people turn into a bat like like a poof, and and it looks great. It's just amazing. So, yeah, if you guys ever get a chance, well, what we do in the shadows, it's on right now. It's on FX on Hulu. So get a free trial, check it out. I'm telling you guys will laugh your asses off. It's just that fun. You'll get you'll get kind of scared once in a while too, because like I said, the graphics are so good. Sometimes they show some really graphic stuff, and you just go whoa real quick, and but it's good. It's so funny. It's funny, and getting scared is pretty cool. So that's all. Anyways, I just thought I'd talk about that. But anyways, so every country has its lore about vampires and the undead. One of the ones that I was looking at is there's Mediterranean vampires, but there's also like Greek vampires, from Greece and stuff. And
the Vrikolakas, they call that. I think that's the name of it.
There you go. And and go ahead. That's why I brought you on.
I'm not a historian, so I learned a lot of this stuff over the last few weeks. So if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, feel free to correct me in the chat, or you guys if you know. But the Vrikolakas, if I'm pronouncing that right, I got a little personal connection because I have red hair. I'm a ginger, and I guess red hair people were accused of being Vrikolakases a lot back in ancient Greece. But this kind of like it. So when you're getting into like the mythology of the vampire, it's like really like there's many streams you can take, like many different tangents. Like there's a whole different history of like the vampire in popular culture, which is like its own thing. And then there's the history of like the vampire, like the Dracula type vampire that we know in like of like the blood-sucking fiend for an actual real life. But then there's like these much more ancient mythologies that kind of like are the predecessors to this vampire. So then, and like the Vrikolakas and these type of things from around the world aren't like cloaked guys who are trying to suck your blood. They're more like demon monster creature things. Like Vrikolakas is not a good-looking count. He's like a scary beast that like, and they'll drink your blood, but that's not their MO. Like that's not the number one thing. It's just a thing they happen to do. But yeah, you were saying that there is. They call them revenant type vampires. Like the term revenant, which means more just like undead person, and that's like the Nosferatu type vampire, where it's like or like if you were any Buffy fans, that's like the Uber vamp, the one that's like pure demon and looks like a gangly, pale, bald creature with like big teeth that might suck your blood, but it's out there to like suck your fear or like play tricks on you, or it's real mischievous, and that parallels many different mythologies around the world. And that's kind of like pre vampire that we know today.
Very cool.
I'm rambling.
No, that's good. I mean, I'm digging all the info. That we both of us, have been researching over the last month, and it's just the thing about vampires, and and what I like about vampires too is their popularity just doesn't go away. Definitely the most popular monster, out of like your classic, either Frankenstein monster or werewolf or mummy. The vampire just
and why is that though?
out.
No, that's a question in itself. Like, why do you think that is? Like, what
Yeah.
makes a vampire so like why do we connect with vampires so much?
I mean, for me, the obvious one for me is is the immortality, for one.
Mm.
I'm not sure if that's what you're getting at, but for me, immortality is just amazing. They just live forever, as long
Yeah.
as they don't get caught in the sun or stake to the heart,
Yeah.
head chopped
No,
off.
definitely. Like for like people raised in like the 1900s or post Dracula, I guess, post like movie Dracula. That's
Mhm.
kind of what we have. It's like almost it's like the closest thing to a superhero that we can like kind of see. It's like you get superpowers and you're like mysterious and stuff. But that's like that's kind of just like one aspect of why humans seem to be drawn to it. But like I guess the that kind of modern like immortal Dracula that with the like aristocratic type vampire that kind of came about in like the Victorian era or like the late 1700s, like early 1800s, and it was like super popular. And it was based apparently for its time. It's not actually really based in like that much folklore. Like if you were living when Bram Stoker's Dracula came out, you would not think it's like an old tale. You like the people considered it to be very modern and like forward thinking. And the thing that like captures, I guess, that era was like the rise in like scientism. Like the elites of that day were very into reason. This is like the age of reason, and you can put a scientific paradigm on top of a vampire very easily. Like you can give a real world applications, and it seems very tangible. Whereas like the older blood sucking myths seem more like a succubus and incubus,
Mm-hmm.
seem more like ethereal or seem more like metaphysical. Where like they're so a major reason why humans connect with it so much is that it seems like it's almost the most real at the time. That was a big like contributor to its rise in popularity. Like when vampires, like in the early 1800s, like it was a vampire was probably more popular than it was today as far as like pop culture. Like people had vampire fever back then, you know?
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I was something that you said kind of triggered me about their characteristics, and one of the characteristics. I think I've seen this. I believe there is a History Channel documentary that goes back to like I want to say right after Bram Stoker's Dracula. This was like in the mid '90s. I haven't got to see all of it, but I remember seeing something about one of the legends or the lore of the vampire is the way you have to invite them in or they can't come in.
Yeah.
They're not allowed into your house. And
Yeah, that's basically like that's in like all the pop culture aspects of it too. Yeah,
right,
yeah, that's very common.
right. And the story I saw, it was like, ooh, I want to say it was like maybe between 17, nah, it can't be 17, maybe late 1800s. And I believe it was like somewhere in the Romania area. And the story, was this: there was this family. They were like in this log cabin, it was really small, kind of, little house on the prairie type looking cabin. And an elderly man, knocks on the door, and he explained to them that he was hungry and he needed a place to stay. So I guess the good natured people invited him in, and when he finally got the invitation, then he was able to walk into the house, and they didn't think anything of it. They didn't know anything about vampires, I guess. But that the following morning, it was like everybody was found dead, drained of blood, of course,
Yeah,
and the man was nowhere to be found. So that's just one story of this history of the vampires. But I don't know if was there anything you wanted to add to that, NightStocker or Gigi, about the invitation characteristic or aspect of a vampire?
That's a tough one to like understand why that is. Like that kind of brings in the more like a magical aspect to the vampire. Like a I don't know. It's like you have to give your consent to be fed on, which is weird. That seems like it has some kind of magical reasoning behind it. Did you watch the BBC Dracula on Netflix, the 3-part miniseries?
I missed that one.
I just finished it yesterday. It was pretty incredible, like really good actually. And like kind of the through line in it is like it's the two main characters are Dracula and then this I don't want to spoil any, but this is in the trailer and everything. It's a nun who was like kind of trying to piece the story together, and like her thing is she tries to figure out the science behind it, or like she's a nun but she's kind of like wavering in her faith. She depicts it as like anybody in an unhappy marriage. It's the same way with her. Like she's lost faith in her relationship with God, so she's looking for like try to figure out why Dracula is afraid of crosses, why Dracula is afraid of like they can like tear out Bible pages and put a circle around him and he can't enter that even. How come they need an invitation to get in? Like because she doesn't believe in God essentially anymore. So like
Okay.
and they didn't really give a reason. Like they explained a few of the other aspects, like the so pretty much any pop culture vampire, there's slight twists, but in this case, he gets the knowledge of anybody he bites. So, for instance, he needed to speak German to somebody, so he bit a German guy and he learned German instantly. So basically what he describes the cross fear as being based on is that the peasant class for hundreds of years are afraid of the totalitarian church, that religion and the cross instills fear in the peasant class of Transylvania. And because he's been feeding on people on the peasant class for hundreds of years, then that's becoming ingrained in him. That it's a fear. It's like not actually a vampire thing. It's the thing that he acquired from getting the essence of humans, which is weird, you know? I think that was interesting, you know? But as far as the entering thing, that one I don't really understand, other than like some kind of metaphysical parasitic relationship where you have to I don't know. It seems like consent is pretty important in magic. I'm not that well versed in magic, but that kind of ties it back into magic, you know?
Yeah, and not only magic, and now this is a little bit of a stretch here, but there does seem to be, not just with vampires or magic, just in general in the universe, there seems to be some sort of unspoken rule that everything has to abide by, to where even things like major tragic events like 9/11, for example, there's example again and again of sort of foreshadowing that you see, like in the Simpsons episode, they had the two towers with 911 on it, and we all know these examples. There's tons and tons of them. Even one with Kobe Bryant. Oh, that's not really a big tragic event, but any major event. I mean, it is, but it's not like a globally tragic event, right?
Yeah.
Any major event that has a massive effect on your life, on people's lives, there seems to be this rule that you have to, in some way, shape, or form, hint at it before. You have to give a fair warning. You can't just swing at the universe completely blindly. And I don't know what the connection would be, but I just keep thinking of that when I'm thinking of, the vampires needing consent to come in.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that sort of rule seems to be universal in everything, one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think in demonology as well. Whether there are some books I've read where, and speaking with Dr. Heather Lynn as well, where a lot of demons need to be invited into the host if they're going to be possessed. The person seeks that out, and then they invite the demon, and that demon gets into them. Could be the same thing with a vampire. That's that's my thinking.
Yeah. No, I mean both those things make a lot of sense. I mean, it could be a way for the universe to like balance itself. Like we see these like demonic entities as being just horrible, obviously, but as like a neutral observer of the entire totality of like everything, you need to have that balance, or else if there's just one section of the cosmos that's just feeding on everything else, then that will become like a tumor on reality. But if you built in this mechanism of consent that creates a balance, and so if you can't feed off anything without that consent, it creates more of a yin and yang thing. Even though from our perspective, we're being tricked and that kind of stuff, but from a neutral totality, I can see that making some sense, you know?
Yeah, it's like you can be tricked, but at the same time, if you're aware enough or looking out enough, there are signs leading up
Exactly.
to events. You know what I mean? There's some sort of foreshadowing that's always going to happen, it seems like. And now another thing there might be a connection to here that I keep thinking about as you guys are talking is when you look at a lot of the cow mutilations, the paranormal cow mutilations, especially at Skinwalker Ranch, where they had clear examples of, I mean, the blood was removed from the body, but there's not a drop of blood on the ground or anywhere else. It just simply vanished out of its body, and they can't explain what kind of tools would have even been possibly used in these situations. And now I'm wondering, like, what if this thing that we call vampire, because here's the thing, whether it's Bigfoot or vampires, anything, I feel like everything starts, it's not based off of nothing at all. There must have been something or someone for this story to be based on, and whatever that thing is that vampires are based on, what if that's the same thing that's doing these blood-sucking mutations?
Yeah, it's a great point. No, it's great. And like, as a conspiracy theorist, I don't think this is true, but like, especially since if you really look into it, like the vampire, the Dracula vampire we know today is really a creation of like the 17 and 1800s. Like you can trace it back to ancient stuff, the bloodsuckers and stuff, but the Dracula we know is like a pretty recent thing. So if you're an elite secret society, an occult secret society that's stealing people to drain their blood for your rituals, same way with like missing 411 and everything, what better way to create some kind of sexy mythical beast you put into pop culture, which at the time it was like the Superman, Batman of their era, to blame all these missing people on. Now we have like caves and criminals and gangs and whatever, but back then they can say, oh no, the demon vampire got him, like, and then that kind of and then like also they're portrayed as being rich elite aristocrats, so that's could tell you something right there too, like Illuminati connection.
Well, I mean,
that's a weird one. I
If
don't
a
think
person
that's true,
doesn't die,
but
first of all, I mean, they don't die, so they can gain their treasure as they go along in time, right? So
the immortal thing, that's barely even a thing. You just gotta live a lifetime in public and then go behind the scenes for 20 years and then come back out into the limelight. For all we know, like the celebrities that we know have been around for a long time. It just they go away for 100 years and just a blink.
Yeah, I think the first time I seen that with the celebrities was like Keanu Reeves. There was a picture I mean, I don't know how Photoshop some of this stuff is, but that looked like a real authentic picture of someone that resembled Keanu Reeves. And then they show of course the picture of Keanu Reeves and that guy together, and it's like, man, they're like almost identical. And the guy doesn't, I mean, he's starting to look his age a little bit now, and like Johnny Depp too. That guy, crazy, man. I mean, some of these guys, they go on for a long time, and then they barely start showing their age.
Yeah, they're starting to run out of blood.
That's there. You see,
Gigi, you mentioned the cattle mutilation, Gigi, and I have like there's no video for this one, but I have like a stack of vampire related comics in front of me right now, and one of them is called Trump's Titan Space Force. It's like from a group of like just political. They don't choose a side. They just like funny political comics. But it's basically vampires are aliens in this story. Like the Dracula is actually like the leader of this reptilian, blood-sucking alien race. So you mentioned the cattle mutilations. That's a weird connection. Like, what if there is some kind of blood-sucking thread that connects those two things? It's interesting. I didn't think about it until you mentioned it.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, there might be something to it, man. Something to it. And shoot, you know what? I might even be a vampire, because when I was 13, my parents had me go to the dentist and get my fangs filed down because they were sticking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
That's funny.
That's crazy.
Vampire teeth. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. I mean, that's another theory for it. Like, what if it's evolution? Like, what if it's just some kind of people just born with the vampire gene, and it's just really rare, so it doesn't come up as much. And like maybe in modern day, it doesn't interact with we have some kind of vaccine or something that we don't know. Like one of the millions of vaccines we take as a baby, maybe one of those is the anti-vampire gene vaccine that they just don't tell us about. But back in the 1800s, they didn't have that, so more vampires were popping up everywhere. But like, maybe people are just born with bigger teeth, or maybe people are born with a aversion to the sun, or a need for vitamin D, or that kind of stuff, or craving for blood. Like, what if it's crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's why they're trying to block the sun out with the chemtrails and stuff.
Oh wow!
Wow, there you go.
Maybe the
Now
cabal,
we're talking.
the secret societies and the cabal, they are vampires. I mean, look, it doesn't even have to be blood. I even, when I was researching this, I saw that, some vampires are actually energy vampires as well.
Oh
So,
yeah, definitely.
So, you got the archons, like, the other night, I was talking with Brad Olson, and I was mentioning that, there was something that I was researching where I believe it was actually the E.B.E. Oli. I can't think of that whole thing. It's something entity being. He some extraterrestrial talks to these two sisters, and they basically translate, and they get a lot of different information from this alien. And when asked about about the coronavirus and are we going to find a cure for it, they're like, there is no cure right now. And this coronavirus was created by these archons, the reptilians or reptilioids.
Wow.
And Brad said, yeah, I mean they're basically archons, and this whole panic is causing a loosh around the world, and that's what they feed on. They feed on fear.
The fear, yeah.
And another synchro with that was I just got done watching Doctor Sleep, which is
I didn't see that yet.
the continuation of The Shining. And I'll tell you what, right now, Stalker, it's instant classic. It's a great, great movie. I mean, it's not the same. You kind of get a little bit of the feel of Kubrick, but it's of course it's not Kubrick. But you kind of get that feel a little bit, and they go back to they go back to the roots, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat, and that whole thing ties in with the loosh and the energy and sucking and that kind of thing, where they have to, in order to maintain their immortality, they need to
feed off the life force of others.
Feed off the life force, and to them, it's more delicious if there's fear, if there's fear involved, if there's pain involved.
I mean, that's adrenochrome right there. It's adrenochrome is adrenaline-filled blood that gives you life. They torture people. I mean, you know the adrenochrome theory. I mean, it's a weird one, but if anyone is not familiar.
Well, let's. I mean, we do, but let's explain that for the audience, though.
Okay,
please.
So this is a weird one, and this gets into the textbook like Illuminati type conspiracies. But essentially, people believe that the elites are harvesting the blood from, in many cases, children. But before they do it, they scare them to fill their blood with adrenaline, and then they drink that blood. And it's not that. I mean, that's a really scary idea. But at the elite level, in like Silicon Valley, they really are into the blood transfusion things. Like, if you ever watched the show Silicon Valley, they call them blood boys, but they really do transfusions of young people's blood and apparently will help make you younger. And the adrenochrome idea is that you take that idea of the blood transfusion giving life. If you scare the people or torture them or do something harmful to them, it makes the blood even more packed with energy and makes it sweeter for them, I guess. It's messed up, but it's also in a lot of sci-fi. Like the demon will torture you and stuff because the fear makes it sweeter, scary.
There's some real science behind this sort of stuff. I mean, in the exact opposite fashion, they know that, if you're eating, if you took two of the same cows and one of them was, just had a scary, terrible life and was just scared all the time versus another cow who's just wandering around the grass being a cow, and then all of a sudden he gets shot without knowing he was going to die. If you eat that meat versus the meat from the other cow who's just been living in this torturous sort of life, for one, there's more nutrients. It's more nutritious for you to eat the free range cow that had a good life, and they've a lot of energy scientists. I don't know what the right term for it is, but they've done tests. There really is something to, because when you're eating something, you're eating it you're consuming its energy, like both metaphorically and literally. It's energy. So if it has a positive energy to it or a negative energy to it, you are intaking that energy into your conscious being. Just like with, when people have organ transplants, there's so many cases of, like, this one lady, all of a sudden, she got a kidney transplant, and the kidney, after the transplant, all of a sudden she became a huge fanatic of some random small town college basketball team from like something completely random. She never even cared about basketball before. All of a sudden she's got posters in her room wearing jerseys, and the husband was like tripping out about this, like, what's going on? So he did some investigating into the person who they got the kidney from, and it turns out they played basketball for that team, and and had a lot of love for that college.
Wow.
So there really is something about consuming something, whether it's a transplant or eating it. You are getting more than just the nutrients. You are getting the energy, the universal energy from that being.
Great point.
Yeah, that's interesting. There was another story like that where the person got a transplant and then all of a sudden they had a hankering for like cigars.
Yeah, that's the same thing. That was in the Netflix Dracula. Is that he, as soon as he eats something, he gets like there's a person with a stutter, like the one he needed to learn German, so he bit a German guy, but that German guy had a stutter, so his language was perfect, but he kept stuttering. So like in this case, you immediately get all the knowledge and the essence of the person who you're consuming. It's crazy. And with the you mentioned the archons, and to tie it into the consent, like in like Gnosticism and stuff, you ever hear the theory of like the trick by the light theory, that the light you see when you die is actually not heaven, it's you're being recycled by the archons and you're being trapped.
Yeah, like that ties in with the prison planet type thing.
Huh?
It ties in with the prison, like the prison planet story.
Exactly. Yep. So like essentially that by the whole narrative of go into the light, like, or you have to choose to enter into the light, that is the consent to be recycled. And the recycling is the archons harvesting your soul energy, I guess, basically trapping you into this prison planet system. I just thought that was weird how it tied back into the consent. That always you need this consent in order to be fed on. It's weird.
I like that. That there's a lot of woke. That term has been bastardized, by the way. By the younger crowd, 20 and under. So you guys are good as far as I'm concerned. But no, it just seems like the whole woke thing has just gotten bastardized. But I would say like Hollywood is trying to push that whole woke agenda, and so they're throwing little fringe things here and there into their stories and movies. There's that one show on Netflix, Carbon something, I think.
Oh, Altered Carbon.
Altered Carbon.
Yeah,
and
I didn't see it yet.
It's another take on whole immortality, but they use technology to download the consciousness of people, of course, and then it's almost like it's saved onto like a USB drive.
Sleeve.
Yep.
Yeah, you wear a sleeve, yeah.
And then it's installed in the new body, and then you just go on living in that other person's body. It's pretty interesting. I like that whole series and type of narrative. I think we definitely need to do a whole show on that as well. That's kind of separate, but
Yeah, I gotta watch
anyways,
that.
moving on to some of the other characteristics of vampires. This comes from vampiresareal.tripod.com, and they have a huge list of physical characteristics of vampires, and it goes on to say physical characteristics. You got the pale skin, sensitivity to sunlight, physically, they can sunburn easily and or visually. Visual sensitivity to any light source, better night vision than day, eye color changing with mood or no apparent reason.
Jesus. It really sounds like they're describing the South Park gingers, like no soul, pale. It really does. It's tough.
I know. I'm sorry, man.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Heightened senses, unaccounted for strength. That's one that we should talk about, is this ungodly, crazy strength that these vampires have, and quick reflexes. Often feels hungry and or thirsty despite an adequate food diet. From what I understand, a lot of vampires don't even eat food. They just drink blood. And some can't even eat food because otherwise they'll get sick. Extreme cravings for certain types of food, or extreme cravings that cannot be satisfied with food. Often feel run down, fatigued, tired despite an adequate food diet activity level. Frequent headaches for no apparent reason. I don't know about this. Does not require very much sleep. That is not true from what I understand. Most vampires sleep during the day. Let's see. Able to heal quicker than others. Yeah, I can see that. Often get sick with flu-like symptoms with no medical explanation. Coronavirus. And they go without feeding for a period. When they go without feeding for a period of time. Some of the mental characteristics are strong-willed, independent nature, confident, intellectual, highly intelligent, well-learned, educated, although not necessarily school-educated. Predatory nature, dark nature, prefers nighttime over daytime, nocturnal nature. Moodiness, mood swings, quick-tempered. Mental and or personality disorders diagnosed by a medical doctor. Now, here's some other interesting characteristics. Psychic abilities, although not necessarily psychic feeding methods, and metaphysical characteristics. So here we have empathy, telepathy, mind reading, see and read auras, extrasensory perception, ESP, clairaudience, being able to mentally hear things from a distance, clairvoyance, being able to mentally see things from a distance, clairsentience, having knowledge that one cannot explain, audiovoyance, being able to see and or hear spirits, possibly communicate with them, telekinesis, pyrokinesis, astral travel, astral projection, psychometry, invisibility, although not as in the Invisible Man kind of invisibility, the kind of invisibility where one can blend into a setting room or crowd. I'm thinking Predator, and not being noticed by anyone looking for them. Precognition and visions, past life memories, especially vampiric past life memories, immortal soul and a belief in reincarnation, experience deja vu quite frequently, able to sense other vampires, often referred to as a vamp radar, involved in alternative religions such as pagan, Wiccan, satanic, etc., or have alternative spiritual beliefs. Most are either born vampires or experience an awakening to their vampiric nature later in life, usually in their teen years, but it can happen later in life. So that's, some of the characteristics of a vampire. And I mean, dude, would you not want to have super strength? Isn't that like one of the best superhero characteristics ever, is to have this incredible strength?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of that sounds really cool. It's just like the price you pay, like, obviously. like in a lot of it sounds real. I mean, besides the intuition and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of it sounds very beneficial evolutionarily too. Like if you're this apex predator, you're going to be designed. You're going to be at this insatiable appetite that can never be quenched. You're going to be like if you're living amongst humans, you're going to be like good looking. It'd be evolutionary beneficial if you're attractive,
Right.
in order to get that consent. And then, like in that BBC Dracula, when he consumes the blood to get the knowledge of the people, he's called like a connoisseur. Like he has this insatiable appetite, but he picks and chooses his people in order to like get smarter. So the reason why they're so intelligent, or they might have these enhanced abilities or powers, is because they're over time accumulating it from the people that they drink from. So like the aristocratic idea of feeding on like the upper echelon of society over time would create this race of these like super intelligent, maybe psychic, maybe super strong or whatever. It's pretty interesting, you know.
I like that. I think it's very attractive. You know, it's very enticing to for one to become a vampire. But yeah, again, you know, at what cost? I mean, at one point I was probably working for like maybe 2 or 3 years, like what you know what you do, stalkers. You know,
Oh yeah,
on you know the night crew. You know,
yeah,
I used to work for a supermarket here, also here in California, and
oh yeah.
I mean, I loved it. There was no one to bother me, you know,
That's the
besides
best. Yeah.
people I worked with. You know, got to sleep during the day, which you know for me is nice once in a while. Um, you know, you kind of do got to get used to it. I mean, everyone says you know take melatonin, you know, and melatonin does work. I will say that.
The biggest problem is that the whole rest of the world is living during the day. Like if everyone else was sleeping during the day, then it'd be no issue. But the biggest problem is just getting woken up by everybody else. You know. But other than that, it's not that hard to get used to.
That's true. But because since now that you say that, there is another world out there at night between certain times, like between you know 9 o'clock and you know what 4 a.m., 6 a.m. or whatever you want to call it. And you know, doing this show. I've noticed that as well. Is that there's just as big an audience that love hearing about these topics and strange tales and shows and stories and stuff like that. That just live for the night to do that, you know, and then you know during the day you don't hear from them at all. You don't see them on Facebook or Twitter or anything until like you know right now at nighttime. So it's you know there are people out there.
That's been the case for the entire history of humanity. I mean, as far as I can tell, like as soon as the sun goes, so if you're like a caveman or if you're just early human, as soon as the sun goes down, you stop hunting, you stop building stuff, you light a fire and you go around the fire or you sleep. So for like thousands and thousands of years, we would sleep in 2 cycles. They call it first and second sleep. So the sun goes down, you eat, start your fire, you tell stories around the fire. So just because of that whole story aspect, it gives us this like mystical tone, but also in between those first sleep and second sleep, because there's no like street lights or anything, you have to stop doing shit when it gets dark out, obviously. So, but in between that time, like when you the first 4 hours and the second 4 hours, it's a real artsy, airy, meditative state where you are much more in tune with your mystical side. So I don't know if that's because they have no choice or no option to like do anything else at night, or if it's just because of this natural essence that the night has just naturally. And perhaps living as a vampire, you can't go out during the day, like living only during that mystical time, like compounded for hundreds of thousands of years, could give you these superpowers, maybe, you know?
That's
yeah,
possible.
and I think there's definitely is something. There is a whole different, like Dave, like you said, is that it's a different world at night, and I'm definitely as many nights of the week as I can. Like I'm one of those night people, and even back whether it was music or when I'm doing something creative, like I can only do it at night. If I'm writing music, or even back in my skateboarding, well, I still skate, but back in my sponsored skateboarding days when I had to go film for Monster and Osiris, I actually bought a generator and lights, and we would go film at 2 a.m. And I feel like I skated better at night. I could focus better. It was just me and the handrail and the generator lights and the filmer. But, it felt like it was in handrail. And I feel like, because during the day, most people are awake and they're projecting their thoughts and their consciousness. They're participating in this reality. They're sending their vibes out into the world. And there's just this massive highway of energy bouncing off all these people. But at night, that sort of
more bandwidth.
Yeah, that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? That distraction of energies blasting through you from everybody is vastly taken down, so you can really sort of tune into yourself more. That's how I kind of think about it, and I'm definitely a nighttime kind of guy for those reasons.
That's a great idea.
But yeah, so there's like in some way it must be conducive to the general lifestyle of a vampire.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Did you ever see Avatar before? Movie Avatar? Man,
I have not watched the whole thing through.
Yeah, it's pretty great. It hasn't really aged that well, but at the time it was like my favorite in theater viewing experience. Like just getting super baked and going to see Avatar in theaters. And but like in the movie, the way it is so this is like really early in the movie. The main character is like in this avatar world or whatever, and it becomes night, and he tries to light a torch, and immediately the female avatar lady who lives there all the time, she knows the avatar ways, she puts the torch out right away, and as soon as the fire goes away, then the entire night illuminates, like the night like wakes up, like because so that's, to me, that was like in my super blazed state, that was kind of like a commentary on the difference between like night and day. Perhaps fire and trying to bring the light into the nighttime is kind of like skewed our vision of what the night is. It just seems like it's day without the light, but maybe there is like an entirely different aspect to the night that contributes to these mystical, higher mystical feel, everything you guys are just saying. Like maybe maybe the night does more than just feeling like it or having everybody else being asleep. Maybe there is just an entirely separate thing. You know?
And you know what might play a part into it is, now this is a highly debated thing, but I've seen enough experiments of this. I just have yet to try it myself, but some pretty, accountable people doing these experiments where they're taking the temperature at night.
Yeah.
So for folks that aren't aware of this, so you know how during the daytime, if you're standing out in the sun, it's obviously going to be hotter than if you're standing in the shade, right?
Yeah.
Well, at night, it turns out you would think it's the same because, the sunlight, the moonlight is reflected sunlight, right? So if you're standing out in the open, it should be a higher temperature than if you're standing in the shade. But it turns out it's quite the opposite. For some reason, it's actually colder standing out in the light than it is in the shade. So it's starting to suggest that something about the moonlight, it's actually cold in nature. And this is it's a highly debated thing.
That's awesome.
The more I've looked into it, there really seems, I think there's a real mystery here that we really need to start figuring out what the hell that is.
No, that's one of my favorite moon is not what we're told ideas. Like, I love that idea. And I've heard it talked about in that the sunlight is golden and it's like septic, and then the moonlight is silver and it's antiseptic. So like during the day, so it's this natural yin yang cycle that during the day is conducive to growth, and then at night it's a completely different type of light. It's silver light, and it's conducive to decay or like death, which is necessary. Like the same way indigenous cultures did the controlled burnings. You need to have the death to bring the new life, and you can get to a million different rabbit holes with that. But that's one idea for the point of chemtrails, or for the point of like trying to affect our ability to get the sun. is just or just the fact that we don't get any moonlight either. Most people don't go out and stare at the moon or whatever. Is that you're messing up these natural cycles, these natural rhythms that are at play in the system. And then that kind of touches back to if this moonlight, this nighttime light, is the death light. These creatures of the night now are associated. Maybe there's like, maybe it's like a malfunction, or it's like same way. What if humans were getting only sunlight? Maybe that's lessening our mystical abilities. Maybe if you're a creature that gets only moonlight, maybe you have some kind of like, it warps you and you get out of balance in the opposite direction, where you become this like death machine, you know?
You get disabilities and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's an interesting theory.
Yeah, just like, we get vitamin D from the sun. What if there's this other nutrient that you get from this now seemingly cold moonlight?
Yeah.
And by the way, for anybody that does go look up, that whole experiment with the moonlight being cold, you will see that it is often associated with a ridiculous theory that shall not be named here. But it has, like, I don't understand why that has anything to do with that. Like, I really don't get it.
It's just,
and
it's just saying
it shouldn't have anything to do with it. Look into that for what it is in itself. Like, that is a mystery in itself, and it's such a shame that it's been attached to that.
I know. No, you're right. It's just because like those people look for anything that supports the fact that what we're told is not the way it actually is. So they latch in to all those things. Yeah, but you're right. As soon as you bring it up, everyone goes, "Oh no, here we go," and then everything else you said the last hour and a half just gets thrown out the window.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely gotta throw that disclaimer out there.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So before we wrap it up, I mean, there's so much stuff we didn't cover. I mean, it's.
I got one cool theory though. For
Absolutely.
You guys. It was. I mean, we've had a lot more cool theories like since we've been talking, but the one I was like looking forward to most talking about is like how do you become a vampire and the different theories for like how you transform into one.
Oh yeah.
And there's the classic like you get bit by a vampire. And there's the ones where there's next and there's like a million different permutations. Some is just you can be infected by the vampire. Some you have to be completely drained. Some you consent to being drained. Some you can't be drained all the way or else you'll just die. Some you got to have your blood sucked and then you have to consume the blood of the vampire. Sometimes you need to do rituals. It's real messed up. Sometimes there's no blood involved and it's any dead person that hasn't been buried within 3 days will turn. That's like one of the early origins of the lore. But the one that's my favorite that I heard was, and the reason why it's so rare is because in order to become a vampire, you have to drink your own blood, and that happens. So the scenario that was laid out was you're buried alive, and then so most people. So let me backtrack. So people try to figure out how come there seems to be less vampires today, like real vampires, than there were back in the 1800s. And one theory was that in the 1800s, maybe like 5 out of 10 people were like, or not so a lot, but maybe like 3 out of 10 people were being buried alive by accident. They're just being misdiagnosed and buried alive. And then they wake up. And then from that 3 out of 10, maybe 1 out of 10 or less than that maybe would actually try to bite themselves. Most people just wouldn't do that to try to drink their own blood. So you take a very small percentage of people being buried alive, a very small percentage from that who would actually bite themselves, and then that creates a vampire. And because now people aren't getting buried alive as much at all, then we have way less vampires. But that was like pretty crazy. And then they compared it to Deadpool, where in the movie Deadpool, when he gets his powers, it's because he's put into this like unbelievably traumatic experience. He's being tortured, like unbelievable pain, and then he gets the serum. So they compare it to that, and it's like maybe being buried alive is the trauma. Like that's got to be one of the scariest things ever, is being buried alive. And then the serum, this Deadpool mutant gene serum, is in the blood. But most people wouldn't actually bite themselves. Like that's a small percentage of people. on top of an already small percentage of people who were buried alive. And those two combinations of the thing, the trauma and the blood, births this undead monster. And I thought that was like really fascinating because I love comic stuff. And it
I was gonna
ties into
say,
the comics.
I was gonna say, I want to go comic here real quick, comic book, because most mutants are considered mutants because they were born with that gene, and Deadpool was not born with that gene. He was basically turned into a mutant, kind of like Spider-Man. Kind of like the Hulk. They weren't born with these abilities or powers.
Trauma.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So that's fascinating. I like that. I like
and it
that.
it could be a gene too. Like it could be just this the latent vampire gene.
Mhm.
Like I watched the show V Wars that came out in 2018 on Netflix,
Mhm.
and it's pretty cool. It ties a lot into the virus thing. So essentially, in the beginning of the show, like without spoilers, this guy, a scientist, him and his friend go down to the Arctic or down to the Antarctic or up to the Arctic, whatever. And there's these spores, these like some kind of latent viruses or whatever that are lurking in the ice, and because the ice is melting, they are exposed to them again. And then one of them is not turned, and the other one is turned. They both get sick, but then at the end, like one is turned to a vampire because he had the latent V gene or whatever. So everyone is exposed to this contaminant, but only a certain percentage actually has this latent gene in them, and it's like an evolutionary thing where it's like the next step. It's the same way where the difference between different types of hominids like Neanderthals and Cro-Magnons, they're very similar, but there's just a gene that's different or a mutation that's different that allowed for one to evolve past the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And in this scenario, it was like painted like that. Like the V gene is just some kind of recessive gene that some people have, which creates this new species that's actually the future of humanity, the super species.
Yeah, I see that.
And that was cool. And it was virus based too. Like it's all very pandemic-y. And in real life, like 3 weeks before, or like I think it was like a few weeks before the big corona scare, there actually was a news story from Newsweek about like 30 plus mysterious viruses being discovered in the Antarctic from melting ice.
Again, I talked about that with Brad Olson, who made a trip up to or down, I should say, to the Antarctica, but he felt like he was looking for UFOs. He wasn't really looking for viruses or anything like that. But I brought up that we did have for a while these holes in the ozone, and that these holes in the ozone were contributing to what they call global warming, which was melting the ice. And of course, when ice melts, things get let out into the environment. So it's very possible, like you were saying, a lot of these viruses that might have been in the ice also could have been from meteorites that struck this part of the world. Who knows how long they've been in the ice, that are now they're now coming out because the ice is melting.
Yeah.
So you also have out of space type virus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or living organisms, whatever you want to call it.
I think Transformers, the first Transformers, where Metatron comes from space and then is trapped in the ice and doesn't come out till hundreds of years later when like the ice starts to melt a little bit. It's like later revealed. Yeah. So just because it's in the Antarctic doesn't mean it's human. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, even with the Thing, John Carpenter's. Yeah, that was in, I don't know if that was the Arctic or Antarctic. I think it was Antarctic.
Yeah.
But yeah, that thing was in its spaceship, and it didn't get released until somebody found it, brought it back, it thawed out, bam, just started going crazy and taking over everything. So it's very possible that vampirism could be from some sort of virus or infection, if you will, and it was more prevalent back in the day than it is today. But I there's so much stuff. We can just keep going on and on and
Yeah,
on.
I know.
And you know, I mean, you guys you've seen Underworld, right?
Yeah.
You know, with the movie with the vampire Celine, and
Yeah.
that whole secret society of vampires. You know, it's like, you know,
I love that idea.
you have the you know, the lichens or the werewolves, then you have the vampires, which I love that war, by the way.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's always been like that way before Underworld. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you've always had the the Wolfman against Dracula.
Oh, this is cool. This is cool. Today's the anniversary of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Nice.
On March 11th. I found out today that Mary Shelley, created Frankenstein the same weekend, like in the same house as Lord Byron, one of the first vampire stories ever. Like they formed it in the same house. Like they had the same origin story, like almost.
Cool.
That you just mentioned. So you mentioned how the vampires and werewolves are always linked. That was it was crazy that Frankenstein and then one of the earliest written down vampire stories was written in the same house, like in the same weekend by these elite aristocrats. You know, it's crazy to me.
Typically, all three of those are linked. You have the vampire, you have Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, and Dracula and the werewolf. For some reason, all three of those are always linked.
Yeah.
And I gotta throw this out there. Another synchronicity like that, although totally not related to anything we're talking about, is
Love it.
the first Nintendo console and the first Sega console, both launched on the exact same day in 1983.
Wow.
Sweet.
Yeah, there you go.
That is crazy.
Wow.
That's fantastic. And both of those consoles have great monster video games as well, like Castlevania.
Castlevania, man. Yeah.
Castlevania, yeah.
Although I have to say, the PlayStation version, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, is going to be my most favorite one.
Yeah, that was the first one where they sort of went that Metroidvania style, as they call it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
man,
you had the Alucard character instead of the God. What is the name of the vampire slayers? I can't remember their name, but
there was Richter, Simon, Richter Beaumont was one.
Beaumont. There you go, the Beaumonts
family. Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, it's fantastic. I love that whole storyline. It's just phenomenal.
There's an animated Castlevania on Netflix too.
I know. I never got to watch it.
Me either.
I need to sit down and watch that.
The thing, if it's based off of the games, because all the storylines in the games, they mixed everything. They took elements from the movies, elements from the books, elements from the spin-off books, elements from comics, and they sort of made its own universe out of all the different Dracula universes. So that would be interesting to see.
I think it is game based. Yeah.
Nice, very nice.
You were mentioning the secret societies in Underworld of the vampires and werewolves and stuff. That's also in Blade too. In the movie Blade, it's like
that's right.
The elites of vamp. Like if you're a vampire, if you're smarter than everybody else and stronger than everybody else, and you can hide in the shadows and move in secrecy, and you live forever, it'd be pretty easy to acquire a lot of money and a lot of influence, and you would raise up to the upper echelons of society, and then hide in the shadows. I think that's crazy. And it was also in the first episode of the Buffy spinoff Angel. Is the first vampire he has to fight is one who is like a rich guy who just preys on actresses in Hollywood. You know, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. And before, like I said, before we wrap it up, there's like a couple of things I want to throw out there as well. Anne Rice is one of the best authors in the world who created the Vampire Chronicles, and I don't know if anyone's read those books before, but the first time I read, I had already watched Interview with a Vampire, so I didn't read that book until I went back and read it later. But the Vampire Lestat, no kidding. When I started reading that book, it just sucked me in, and I felt like I was there.
Yeah,
her writing is that good. It just felt it was like in my mind I could see everything. It was freaking amazing. And,
I haven't read it.
It's just fantastic. Yeah. So if anyone gets the chance to read any of those books, the Vampire Lestat, you want to watch the movie or read the book, definitely start with the Interview with the Vampire. But The vampire.
The movie's so weird.
Yeah, the movie is weird. And honestly, there's a lot they left out, and in my opinion, some of the characters did not even go near what the book details at all.
I just don't know how they got made. Like, I didn't see it when it came out because I was a '90s kid, so it was like too scary for me. But I watched it a few years ago, and I'm just like, how the hell did they get Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise to make this movie? Like, what the hell are they doing the whole time? They're just this weird homoerotic, like,
it
I
is.
don't know. What the hell's happening? Like,
what's interesting too is Anne Rice considers herself a true Catholic, but she writes about all this erotic stuff that happens in these, and like you said, homoerotic as well. Because that's another interesting trait that I've been seeing lately in some of these vampire stories is they go both ways, man. It's kind of weird. Like True Blood is another one that they do the same thing. And there was another one that does that besides Interview with the Vampire. But anyways, it's just really bizarre. It's a bizarre, dark world out there when it comes to Hollywood vampires. But anyways, yeah, there's so much more. I guess we can consider this an episode 1 of the vampires. We're gonna have to go back and talk some more about this, because there's still so much to touch on the real vampire community, or modern vampires as described by John Edgar Browning. And that's something that I didn't get to bring up. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that NightStocker didn't get to bring up, and Gigi just kind of fell into this episode, and would love to have him come back for the second part.
Oh yeah.
That way we can all match our research and put it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's make this a series.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's people in the YouTube that were talking about how they really like the show. Thank you very much, Mr. Montclair. I appreciate that. And you can always go to beyondthestrange.com and catch up on the episodes there. And soon the Patreon will be out there with commercial-less episodes, if you like, and download as many as you want at the same time. Gigi has his show, Shift Happens. Gigi, you want to throw out that website?
Yeah, sure. The website for the show is shifthappenspodcast.com, and we're live on the Fringe FM every Friday from 7 to 9. And and definitely check out thefringe.fm, www.thefringe.fm. That's a network that we are both on, and there's literally good stuff, good shows on there playing 24/7, all kinds of other shows to check out as well. So definitely check out the Fringe FM, folks.
I'm actually officially doing the NightStocker news. I made my first one yesterday. Yeah.
Well, NightStocker, throw your stuff out there, man. Put a plug out there, buddy.
I don't really got anything, but if you listen to the Fringe, you might hear a little 2-minute news drop from the NightStocker news. So just listen to the Fringe, and if you want to find me on Facebook, it's a NightStocker on Facebook. But other than that, just listen to you guys.
Beautiful,
big fan.
Dude, I was going to wait till after the show to say it, but man, I was going to say you should do your own podcast.
I know. That's what I said. I was like, if it's somebody I'm going to turn to, I definitely need to talk to NightStocker, because there's so many other topics that we still need to talk about. Lilith, by the way. So we got a ton of stuff. Yeah. We can do that in part 2 as well. Lilith on its own, I have a theory about Lilith and what's happening in the world today. So that's something that maybe you guys might want to. One of these days we'll sit down and talk about it. But this night just went by really quick. And, man, it was fantastic. Thanks a lot, guys, for hanging out with me and hanging out in Discord and YouTube. You guys are all great. And if there's anything else you guys want to add before I wrap it up.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for listening. That was really fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, this was a unplanned show, but if you go to beyondthestrange.com, you'll see that there's schedules for all the live shows broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. And it's a great channel. Please check it out. And check out all the hosts and shows that are on there as well. And you'll love it. You'll love it. And we'll do some more of these surprise shows during the week as well, and in Discord as well. So thank you all, guys, Appreciate it. Everyone in there, CZG, Mike GA, Jen, Lisa Allen. I mean, I just saw the Strange Chat was popping tonight, so I love seeing that, as well as YouTube. Have a few new people in there as well. Thank you. And that's it for me tonight. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you all on Sunday. And don't forget, shift happens on Friday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, right on the Fringe FM. So we're all there. You can catch all three of us on the Fringe FM. You guys have a great night, and stay strange. Hasta.